Hi everyone, Aiden here with eTrailer. Today we're going to be taking a look at and showing you how to install these MORryde StepAbove camper and RV steps on our 2022 Forest River Salem FSX Travel trailer. Now these are obviously going to be a very big upgrade to your factory steps in a number of ways. They're going to have a better weight capacity working at 500 pounds. It's going to have much wider steps. You've got a nice tread built into those steps so it gives good grip for our feet or our shoes. And then they have these deployable legs. So whenever it folds down and out, those legs make contact with the ground. So you've got a firm and solid base as you're walking up these. So there's no shifting, there's no shaking or wobble. And as you can see, even with my larger work boots on, they fit completely on the step. Just a little bit of overhang on the toes, but more than enough for me to feel very comfortable getting in and out of this. So if you're using this with your family, maybe you're camping with some older people that you're not as confident with them going up the factory steps, this definitely makes a much better and more solid base. And just in general, it's not going to shake the camper as much as you get in and out of it because you're working with a solid foundation. Where it mounts inside your camper, it's got this plate here to make a smoother transition over that threshold so it's less of a tripping hazard, and this very grippy traction tape, much like is found on the other steps and even your factory steps, to help provide grip on that point as well, so even if your shoes are wet, you shouldn't have any problem slipping. The steps themselves are going to be aluminum, making them resistant to rust and corrosion. And the side rails here are steel, but they've got a black powder coat finish on there to help resist rust and corrosion. And I expect that that powder coat finish shouldn't wear off very easily because when it's stored, it's going to be stored inside your camper. And that's not going to be the part that our shoes are actually touching. It's always going to be on the steps themselves. So I expect that powder coat should hold up really well. The partial aluminum construction makes this very lightweight and easy to lift up into the camper. And as I push it in place, that latch is going to secure on the door jamb right here and hold it in place, allowing us to close our door up and drive away. You can see here our factory steps are still very much intact, so if we need to use those maybe at the storage lot, we've got a tight scenario where we're close to another camper, we can use them still. And you can really see now why we replaced them, because even though this camper is relatively new, these steps have seen better days. They're already starting to rust and they're not very smooth. Now, if you do need to use these, you're probably going to be asking yourself, how do you get in? The steps are removable though. If we come in towards the door, we're going to see these removable pins. So just pop those out on either side and we can actually take the steps and just fully remove them. It'll leave behind the brackets, but if you're in a scenario where you need that access to your camper and you can't get it with these steps, then that's okay. You can just lift them out, set them inside your camper, set them up out here, but you've got that access into your camper with your factory steps if you need it for those parking lots. With them, the folded up state, we can better see the adjustment that these legs have, controlled by this lever right here. It'll lock in place whenever it hits one of these notches, and you can set it to fit your height of your camper, wherever that may be. They're adjustable independently from each other, so if you're parked on uneven ground and we need one to be out a little further than the other, we can do that. And then to get them deployed, we've got this blue lever to release the door latch, and then we can just pull the steps out and get it set up. From here, you can see one of our feet isn't making contact. Just press that button, hear it latch in, and give it a quick test. Now, if you're looking at these, obviously they're going to seem really nice, but if you don't have this exact camper, no worries, we can still help you out. This is going to work for a variety of different heights and door widths, so just take a few measurements on your camper to make sure this fits. From the ground to the top of the threshold in your door there, that should be anywhere from 25 to 29 inches, and the doorway width, inside flange to inside flange, should be anywhere from 23 3/4 of an inch to 26 1/4 of an inch. If those measurements don't match your door, be sure to check our website because we've got tons of other options and versions of this step that give you better and different fits. So depending on what you have, you should be able to find the one that works for you and your camper. If you're wanting to see exactly how we install this one though on our Forest River Salem FSX, then stick around because we're going to walk through that whole process with you right now. And just before we get into it, you're going to need very minimal tools, just something like a Phillips head screwdriver and potentially a wrench and socket to loosen up some bolts. But we'll walk through all of those adjustment points during the install, and just know that it's going to be really straightforward. Let's check it out. The first thing we need to do for our installation is look at the doorway here. There's going to be a small transition plate between the threshold and the actual floor of our camper. That's typically going to be held in by 3 Phillips head screws, so you can just grab a screwdriver or a bit driver and get those screws removed. The next thing you want to do is take a look at the hinges that you have, and this will determine how you approach the next few steps. Our hinges today have this cutout here where you can see that hole for one of our mounting screws. So that's the set of directions we're going to be following. If yours differ, then just be sure to follow the alternate instructions. But with this in position, with these hinges, I'm going to actually set this up loosely in the doorway, trying to get everything nice and level. And depending on the height of your doorway, you're going to have to get these feet set out. Just try to get it in the most accurate position you can. All this looks really nice. And then turn your attention to the doorway. The thing we're looking for here is that this plate is flush with the threshold on the side and the top as best it can. Right there is looking perfect. And the next thing we're going to do is center it side to side. Then once everything's centered up side to side, we can turn our attention to those exposed mounting screw locations that we saw earlier and get our first screws attached, the 2 on the outside. With those screws secured, we can lift this up into place and check out the positions of our latches. These can be adjusted, and as you can see right here, we're actually making some contact right there where we don't really want to be. It's nice because the latches are engaging, but this one needs to be brought in just a little bit. So we'll grab ourselves an 11mm socket, loosen those bolts, and bring that bracket out a bit. These don't need to get loosened a lot, just enough so that we can move this piece in just a little bit. Now, depending on your door, you might find that you're getting a slightly different fit than us, and that's okay. This is all just going to be what works best for you and your camper. Don't bring it in too much because we still want that latch to engage. We can come back through and tighten it up. And as you're tightening it up, just be sure to hold it straight. With your adjustments made, I always like to give it another test. So pull the blue lever on one side to disengage the latch. Goes down without hitting anything, and it goes back up also without hitting anything. That latch engages perfectly. And before we get everything fully mounted up, you do also want to check to make sure you don't have any clearance issues with your screen door, which this one we don't, and then also your regular door. All of those close, no problem, no sticking, so we're good to mount everything up. And that'll just be in all of the remaining holes. Again, these screws are included in your kit. And once everything's mounted up, you're all done. That install process is very straightforward. That transition plate we removed earlier, you can just set that aside. It's not gonna get reinstalled because it's not gonna fit anymore. But now you've got a nice solid step to get in and out of your camper. It's fully removable if you've got tight parking at your storage spot. And they're gonna give you a better weight capacity, a wider step, and much more confidence when you're going in and out of your camper. Thanks for watching.